Justin Gaethje came out and he said, "I'm not going to fight again. I'm waiting for a title shot." Now, we've seen that dance done a million times, right? As somebody that's been around this game as long as Justin Gaethje is not going to be a fool that makes that statement, because you know how that works out. For everybody in the history that they've ever tried to get it to work out for him, it doesn't. But he didn't stop there. He said, "I've made plenty of money and I'm going to make plenty of good business decisions. I don't want to be done, but if this means I'm done, then so be it. I'm not going to be a tool. I'm not going to get used. I've always wanted to fight for a world title. So bring me the world title or just don't call me at all." Now that's a totally different statement than "I've decided that I should be the guy and therefore I am or else." It's a totally different statement. Also, now, I don't know that that's going to work out for him, but he is in a little bit of an interesting situation. Conor refused to fight him. Khabib is fighting Tony. There's not a lot of stuff for Gaethje to do right now. Now, that's a very tough division and things are forming very quickly, but there's not a lot of stuff that makes sense right offhand for him to do. The other side of and everybody wants to see him fight. Poirier just came out, handed Gaethje a huge compliment, said Justin Gaethje is the most likely guy in the division to take out Khabib. So it's very interesting, but the one thing that always gets missed with anybody who sits out, not the statement "I'm going to sit out" to get some conversation going, which is what I think Justin's doing, but let's take him at his word just so we can have some fun and have something to talk about here. But the guy that actually does it, the guy that actually sits out, he gets so full of vigor, he gets so full of confidence, he looks at the headlines, he looks at the numbers, he looks at the rankings, he says, this is the thing to do. What he always misses is how quickly things change in this sport. Guys, I talk to you about this all the time. We don't have to rewind any further than LA earlier this year, when the biggest fight that could be made in the industry across the board was Daniel Cormier versus Jon Jones, Part 3. Daniel Cormier gets beat by Stipe Miocic in the 4th round, and Jon Jones is now out of the equation, period. It's all about Daniel Cormier versus Stipe trilogy, Daniel retirement fight. I mean, that one fight gets buried, but another fight gets built. GSP is now talking about coming back. Nate Diaz has come back. Nick Diaz might come out. George Masvidal is now the biggest star in mixed martial arts. He's been just a guy. Just a really tough night out, but just a guy as far as the fans were concerned. For 15 years, 40 days ago, he now shoots to the absolute top of the bill. Point being, things can change really quickly. I mean, that same night that Masvidal became a star, 50 minutes before, Kevin Lee is on his way out of the business. 45 minutes before, as in 5 minutes later, Kevin Lee is now put himself back in contention to be fighting for a world championship. Meanwhile, at 155 pounds, you've got Felder, who everybody loves to watch. You got Barboza, who everybody loves to watch. You've got Dan Hooker about to headline in his own hometown, who, by the way, just co-headlined the biggest mixed martial arts event of all time. And I realize Adesanya and Whitaker are taking all the credit for that, but Ally Quinter and Hooker were also a feature match. They're a co-main event. They get some credit too. Point being, there's stars out there, and it changes very quickly. And you never know who's coming up or who's going down or who's going to get a win, or when Kevin Lee's going to kick an undefeated fighter in the face and all of a sudden you just never know what's going to happen. I do think that if people were to look at the landscape right now, and Justin Gaethje just made this statement, right now, they'd agree with Justin. I see his point completely. The rankings support him. The numbers support him. The shows that he's main evented. And go see the James Vick fight, for example. That was supposed to be a smaller show. Justin packs the house. Everybody wants to see him fight. If you go look at the body of work that he's done and where he stands right now, he's got the respect. He's even got the mandate of the former interim champion in his own weight class than Dustin Poirier. And those guys aren't even buddies. Poirier was just being straight up, shined up Justin's will. I mean, he's in a really good spot. If you wait at all, if you even say the word, "I'm going to wait," it slows things down. It just does. Justin will have a lot of fans. And I don't want to make this all about Justin. I want to talk about this topic and this phenomenon from a psychological standpoint, but we're going to use Justin's quote. Justin has a whole bunch of fans. He's got fans. The problem is, and what fighters always miss, is they think they then are only going to grow fans. The one thing that they don't understand is the fan needs a fighter to attach to. It needs a singer. It needs an actor. It needs an artist. The fan must attach itself to a project. It has to. The second that principal, in this case the athlete, puts his head underwater, takes his oars out for a little bit, the fan goes down with him. Fan's not looking to go down, so the fan has to jump ship. That's what happens. And that's why when somebody's removed, they come back and they're not as big of a deal. That's why it moves so fast. The fan must have a performer to be attached to. And the second that performer pulls his head underwater, the fans aren't going to drown with it. They're just going to jump to another boat. That's okay. That's above board, but that's the piece of history and psychology that the performers always miss. There's an arrogance that comes along with it, as well as a misunderstanding. That's why things change so fast. We're always led to the belief that things change fast because some new young guy with some new fresh skill set came out. That's the way it gets packaged up and shoved down your throat and shoved up your ass. That's not what's happening. What's happening is the fighter went underwater and the fans didn't want to drown with him. They wanted their career to live on. And their career and their participation in the space is that of a fan. To have somebody to cheer for, to have somebody to get behind, to have somebody to mark a date off in their calendar to look forward to. And if it's not going to be you, it's going to be somebody else. So as much as people believe, oh, this sport changes fast and some new star comes up, it's not because the new star's got new skills and offered a fresh face and a different t-shirt, a weird hairstyle, and had something to say on the microphone. It's not. That's a piece of the pie, though. So when you go underwater and the fans don't want to end their participation with you, they're looking around for that fresh new face. They will then create the narrative that this is the guy. This is the new skill set. This is the next wave. They'll create that. Doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Be very careful waiting unless Justin's very sincere. If he's very sincere and there's no gamesmanship here and he's going, look, I'm good right now walking away. I do it again because I want to fight for a championship. That was my goal. And if I have that opportunity, let's get on with it. But otherwise, I'm going to walk away. I need to say this in Justin's defense because this is tremendous and I almost left this out. Anybody that turned on Justin for making that statement, I know many people hate that statement. There's one other part, this will bring you back on Team Gaethje, is he said, I'm going to do my best to be ready in April. But it's very hard, motivation-wise, to prepare for something that isn't set in stone. Now, what he's talking about is Khabib versus Tony. They've tried it 4 times. They've failed 4 times. If history's a good trajectory for the future, he needs to observe that. Let me put myself in a spot to be ready, to be in shape, to be within striking distance of the weight class, and to make sure I'm in everybody's mind so I can be the fill-in. Well, that's pretty cool. In fact, that's the polar opposite of the original statement of I'm going to wait out. And it ties in with the middle statement of I just want to fight for a championship. Well, that's a guy who actually does. A guy who is sincere in that statement is somebody that's not going to lose any fans. So if this story is going to be told, make sure we understand the third part of the story, which is I'm going to go and focus and get ready for a fight that I don't even have, to prove my premise that this is what I truly want. If Justin goes and does that, I don't think there's any way to question him. Or should somebody pull out of that fight, I don't think there's any way to deny him.